Hey everybody, it's Dr. Amy Myers. How are you all? Happy Thursday. Hey, today we're going to be talking about children's health. So for those who don't know me, I'm Dr. Amy Myers. I'm the founder and medical director of Austin Ultra Health, a functional medicine clinic based in Austin, Texas, as well as the New York Times bestselling author of The Thyroid Connection and The Autoimmune Solution. So, and most importantly, I'm a mom to my daughter, Elle, who just turned 6 months. And we have a really big, exciting day tomorrow. My husband and I will be hopefully going to down to the courthouse and officially having Elle become 100% ours. She is adopted and it will be finalized tomorrow. So fingers crossed and prayers for us tomorrow that Elle will be in her forever home. So since becoming a mom to Elle, of course, I have just been diving into all the research and I've been so focused on children's health. So Elle just turned 6 months. She's been being fed by a donor's breast milk. And we recently started introducing food, real food into her diet. So that's been quite a journey. She loved avocado. That was her first food. If you don't follow me on Instagram and you're curious about my personal life, that's really where I post everything. So hop on over to Instagram if you're interested, Amy Myers MD. And there's a video of Elle taking her first bites of avocado, and she loved it. I have yet to put up the video from her trying out sweet potato. That was second, and she hated it. So we were 1 for 1. Now we're 2 for 2. We tried carrots. That wasn't a huge fan. And then we did butternut squash. So right now we're on butternut squash and avocado. So we'll be talking about today really the importance of real whole foods for children. So many of you all know that I have my own personal journey with autoimmunity. My mission is, conventional medicine failed me. Is my mission to not have it fail you or your child. So really, what I'm doing for Elle is hopefully setting her up for a lifelong of good health. Many people know I've written about this. I share very openly. I really want to empower people. Elle was a C-section baby, and we had her seeded with the microbiome of her birth mother. So lots of articles and lots of information on this. If this is something that interests you, please like and share this video to anybody who's maybe a new mom themselves, thinking about becoming a mother, is currently pregnant. I'm really diving into all the information so that we can keep our children healthy, so that my daughter doesn't end up in the boat that I was in with autoimmunity. Of course, if you do get autoimmunity, I can help bail you out, but none of us ever want to get a chronic illness and have to be bailed out from that. So today we're going to be talking about the optimal diet for your child, as well as how to choose the right supplements, and just some of the most common concerns that are happening now with children, which is allergies, eczema, asthma. Autoimmunity is happening more in children. Autism is, at all-time highs. So many of these conditions can be prevented and, of course, potentially put into remission if your child is diagnosed with them. So, and then I'll be talking about a customized children's multivitamin that I formulated for Elle, and I'm sharing it with all of you all as well. So if you're interested in that, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes, you can go to a special link that I have for you, which is amymd.io/children. What I'm going to do right now before I dive into stuff is just kind of check out Facebook here and see who's there. Robert, you're always here. Happy to have you. Hey, Helena, thanks so much for joining us. Helena works for a company that I wrote an article about. If you go to my website, MTHFR, a genetic company that is doing genetic testing similar to 23andMe. But the great news about that is that you don't have to use saliva. So I did this test on Elle, and very, very fascinating to get back her test results. Very thrilled she didn't have 2 mutations at MTHFR like I do. But anyway, so if you are a mom or have a young child and can't get the saliva yet from your child, please go check out my MTHFR article. And typically this testing needs to be ordered by a physician, but because I'm good friends with Helena, she was able to convince the company to let you guys order some testing because I had done some education through that article. So we have Cornelia from London. Hi, Agnes from Austin, right here in my own backyard. And Jacqueline from Round Rock. Gina is listening. She's a new grandma. Well, congratulations to you. All right, everybody. So let's dive in. Let's dive into what I was talking about, which is, first, let me just start off by talking about most children's multivitamins are just filled with a lot of artificial sweeteners. I mean, you'd be shocked. Dyes, fillers, preservatives. And the one that I'm going to be talking to you today is completely free of all this. So if you'd like to order the multivitamin that I'll be talking to you about today, there's a 10% off between now and tomorrow night, September 15th, Central Standard Time. But let's get into just some issues going on with our children today. So eczema, allergies, and asthma are exponentially on the rise. I could get into a whole theory about this, but I think the important reason, or something important to know, is that these are all inflammatory conditions. So, I would say that inflammation is pretty much the root of all chronic conditions, whether you're dealing with something as an adult or as a child. Many people aren't really thinking of eczema, allergies, asthma as being inflammatory, but they are. So the good news is that as soon as you remove what's in the way, the inflammation that's in the way, many of these things can resolve. So I'll talk to you about some of the things that I see with kids that are dealing with eczema, allergies, and asthma. Autism, as we all know, dramatically on the rise. I know, when I was a kid, or even not even a kid, but in my 20s, watching Rain Man, this was supposed to be a genetic disease that was extremely rare. And now I think it's like, 1 in 30 kids or something is being diagnosed with autism. I don't think that we've gotten better at diagnosing this. I think this is really that there is a large increase in autism. And then, of course, autoimmunity. Even just when I started my practice nearly 10 years ago, it was mostly adults. And then, over the last several years, I've been seeing more and more children diagnosed with autoimmunity. So, what is going on here? And I think there are a lot of different things. And I talk about this in both of my books, The Autoimmune Solution and The Thyroid Connection, just about what is happening with our diet. Many kids are already eating very inflammatory diets. I was home, many of you all know, if you followed me, home in New Orleans recently, and I was sharing some memories from childhood, and I was talking about how, I remember I grew up in South Carolina, but my family was from New Orleans, and then I ultimately grew up in New Orleans. But as a young child, we would go to New Orleans every year for Christmas, and I remember my brother and I would get there, and we'd arrive at my grandparents' house, and there was little boxes of cereal, like Fruit Loops and I don't even know the names of cereals, but sugary cereals nonetheless. And they were in these little boxes, and it came in a pack of, I think it was 6. And my brother and I would get this as soon as we arrived at my grandparents, and we'd divvy them up and pick which ones we wanted. If we were lucky, maybe it was a pack of 12 or 10. But that was our sugar cereal for the year. Anyway, the point of all of this is that I'm remembering all this stuff from childhood, and every memory I had and that I was bringing up was about some sugary food while visiting somebody. Because the point of this is, as a child, I didn't get sugar. Cheerios were the sugariest thing that I ate as a kid. My mother made homemade yogurt as a kid, homemade whole wheat bread as a kid. We ate real food. Now, I later found out that many of those foods were inflammatory for me, whether that's just me getting leaky gut over the years, or foods, changing over the years, some combo of all of that, Roundup coming on the market, a whole host of things. But the point of that is, as a child, I grew up eating brown rice, whole foods. So many of my childhood memories that stand out are surrounding some sort of sugary thing that I would never, ever get. But most kids aren't like I was when I was growing up. First of all, this is, 40 something years ago. And so we've advanced. And when I was little, it was the frozen foods and TV dinners were just coming on the market. We've had 40 years more of that, of processed foods coming on the market, genetically modified foods. And so children these days are growing up, eating heavily processed foods. And, I'll have conversations with moms and dads in my office where they're eating this, following my diet, eating real whole foods, but their children are not. Well, my kid is a picky eater, or my kid is only mac and cheese, or they only eat grilled cheese. Well, I don't know where it became kids' food and parents' food. I mean, it should just be food, sitting down at the table with your children. So my husband and I are really trying to instill that already at 6 months with my daughter, Elle, eating real whole foods and making sure that we sit down at the table. We were definitely guilty of, I work a lot. And so you want to watch some mindless TV at night and eat in front of the TV. And we're really making an effort to sit down as a family. When we put her in the high chair, let her know that's our time to eat and, to be at the table as a family. So part of why we're having all these chronic illnesses is due to our diet. Both just kind of what we've somehow learned to think is children's food, and then what we've done to our food supply and what we've done to our soil. So we're no longer getting the nutrients that we used to get even when we are eating real whole foods. So I do believe that everybody, including children, really do need to take some basic supplements, a good multivitamin, a good fish oil that has, purified out the mercury, a good high quality multi-strain probiotic. And then most people need vitamin D. And our children are of no exception here. So what we want to do with children when we're looking at allergies, eczema, asthma, autism, autoimmunity is really reducing this inflammation. And so when you're dealing with a child, it's many of the same principles that I talk about in both of my books, The Autoimmune Solution and The Thyroid Connection, is reducing this inflammation. Because as I talk about in The Autoimmune Solution, it's this spectrum, a little bit of inflammation, more inflammation, to potentially full-blown autoimmunity. So it really goes back to reducing that burden. And the first place to do that is to start with good, real whole foods diet. So if you can, I think that for most people, gluten, dairy, soy, corn, and sugar are very, very inflammatory foods. And so really limiting if not completely eliminating that in your child's diet. Now, the first question I always get is, what about dairy? My kid's growing. Many of these alternative milks, almond milk, rice milk. I'm not a huge fan of soy milk, but they're fortified. And so you're not missing out on calcium. I've written an article on the dangers of dairy and other places that you can get calcium that are probably better absorbed and just more bioavailable to you, such as through our leafy greens and through broccoli. So, eliminating these inflammatory foods. Sugar is a very, very inflammatory food. Making sure we are adding in some high quality supplements, and then of course reducing our toxic burden. So looking at clean water, getting a HEPA filter, looking at, clean air with a HEPA filter, looking at clean water by getting a water filter, and not just on your tap, but also in your shower. So what I do for Elle, we have a shower filter, and maybe my staff can I know that we have a code from Aquasana where I typically get my filters. I think it's Dr. Myers 30, but my team will put it in the comments, I'm sure, for you. So I have a shower filter, and then it has a wand. And so she's obviously taking baths. And so we have a little separate bathtub within the bathtub that we put in. I just bring the wand down and do that, or I'll fill up the bathtub with the wand. So she's being bathed in filtered water. Eating clean, organic food, non-GMO. And of course, looking at our cleaning products and for kids, bath products as well. And just the things that we're putting on their skin. So I do have an article where I talk about bathing, the first bath and delaying the first bath. And I talk about some products that I use there if anybody's interested. I'm going to pop back over and just see. We have Karen from British Columbia. We have Anne from South Carolina. Hello. I hope you all fared okay in the storm. And I'm sorry, we were so what I want to say, preoccupied with Hurricane Harvey here, that I do want to send out to everybody who was affected by Irma to let you guys know that we've been thinking of you as well. Thanks to you guys, we were able to make a generous donation to Hurricane Harvey relief. We donated a percentage of the sales from our Candida Challenge, as well as from the Labor Day sale to Hurricane Harvey relief. And, you know, I was again reminded when I was home in New Orleans how moldy it was. So many of you all who have been affected by these hurricanes, please, please put toxic mold on your radar, because, you know, that is going to be a real problem in many of these cities. And also to know that, you know, I'm no stranger to hurricanes growing up in New Orleans and the Mississippi Gulf Coast. When I was home recently in New Orleans visiting with both of my aunts, my father's sister and my mother's sister, both of them had relocated from New Orleans to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and were living there during Katrina, and of course evacuated. And when they came home, their homes were completely destroyed, literally nothing salvageable, an empty lot. So I'm thinking of you guys. I have family in Florida. Thank God they were all okay. But please know, any of you all affected by this hurricane, we've all been thinking of you, and just sending you love and prayers. So Digna's here. She's my Elle's nanny. So hopefully Elle is at home watching her mama as well. I'm here at the office. And Kat and Austin saying they shared me on their podcast. I really appreciate that. Let's see who else we have here. Let's see. Yep, just some people saying hello. Anita, hello. Gordana, hello from Belgrade. Nice to see you. So anyway, yeah, like and share this with anybody that you think would be interested in children's health. So I will continue on. So, and then of course, minimizing stress. So the same things that are affecting children are affecting us, or the same things that are affecting us as adults are affecting us as children. So really, you know, the 5 principles that I kind of talk about: the diet, of course, healing the gut. So part of healing the gut in a child is going to be, you know, looking at how they were born. If you're currently pregnant, you know, how your baby's delivered, being able to breastfeed if you can, and then, you know, really trying to avoid antibiotics at all costs. Breastfed is where they'll get prebiotics and probiotics, and then you can also add in a probiotic as well. So after Elle was born, or before she was born, I started formulating a infant probiotic that we now carry on the store as well. So and that's something that I give Elle every day. So we have looking at the diet, looking at our gut, looking at toxins, of course, potentially infections in children. And then stress. So kids are being affected by stress just as we are, whether that's stress from electromagnetic frequencies, EMFs, to stress in the household of something that might be going on, to just stress. I mean, these days it's stressful out there. And I mean, I can already tell you, you know, I know people who had children around the same time that Elle was born, and they've already, you know, figured out where they're going to go to school. I haven't had time to figure that out. So it can already be stressful. And then, you know, getting into certain schools, even at 18 months. So a little crazy. Anyway, so what's the optimal diet for your child, and what's the best way to set them up for optimal health? And I would say, you know, eating real whole foods, really avoiding toxic foods, inflammatory foods, and junk foods. So I already mentioned previously, you know, gluten, dairy, soy, corn, and of course, sugar are going to be very inflammatory, potentially sugar is, I think, inflammatory to everybody. The others are potentially inflammatory. Soy and corn, most all of us genetically modified these days. And then of course, wheat and dairy can be very inflammatory. So eating lots of real organic vegetables and fruits, lean animal proteins, and healthy fats. So if you need a list of, you know, which foods are okay to eat, if you can't, either it's not accessible to you or you can't afford to get all organic, the EWG, the Environmental Working Group, has a lovely list there, and I encourage you to go check that out. So, and just please remember, if you are getting packaged foods, even things that have a lot of buzzwords about it being organic, about it being natural, you really need to look at hidden sugars and look at, sugar can be hidden under a lot of different names, like brown rice syrup and things like that, that sound great and are in foods in places like Whole Foods. So you really need to be careful about hidden sugars. Fruit juices, of course, are a big place that sugars are hidden. Dried fruits, things like that. So if you're going to have your kid doing juice, making those at home and making vegetable juices with just a little bit of fruit in it. So, back to, do I think that everybody needs supplementation? I do, and children are no exception. There's a study by the Environmental Working Group that found between children between 2 and 8 years old that 81% of them didn't get enough vitamin D. 65% were low in vitamin E, and 23% weren't getting enough calcium. So, these are real problems. Now, why is this? Is this simply that our soil has changed? Is this that our diets have changed? Is this that, we have intestinal permeability and we're not absorbing things properly? I'd venture to say that is a combo of all three of those, factors. So it's, I do believe, and then now that we know about testing such as 23andMe, we can, or the testing that we have, from the article from the MTHFR, the article that I wrote, now that we have this SNP testing, we can really know that it's not a one size fits all when it comes to vitamins. If you have one SNP and MTHFR versus none versus two, your needs for B vitamins and pre-methylated B vitamins are going to be dramatically different. Somebody who has no mutations, they may be able to get what they need by eating leafy green vegetables. Somebody with one definitely needs to be on a high quality multivitamin. The one that I formulated, the Myers Way multivitamin, to go along with the Thyroid Connection book, has a lot of pre-methylated Bs in it. So if you have one mutation, you can probably get away with taking a really high quality multivitamin. If you have two mutations like I do, likely even just that multi is not enough for you, and you need to look at something like methylation support. So, there's no way that I could possibly get what I need just from my diet because I'm homozygous at MTHFR. So really the, RDA recommendations of vitamins and minerals was based on what's the minimum amount that you need to not get something, say, like scurvy. It's not about what do you need to be optimal. And then, of course, they can't give a recommendation based on, somebody with no MTHFR mutations versus somebody with two MTHFR mutations. The amount of B vitamins needed there and how we can absorb them is so dramatically different. So I think at some point, these RDA recommendations, the point of it is what's the minimum amount to not cause disease, but not what's the amount to, prevent disease or to have optimal health. So that's really what I'm always talking about, is that. So again, the reason that I formulated a children's multivitamin is the same reasons that I formulated an adult multivitamin. When I went looking, for myself and for when I was getting ready to write the Thyroid Connection, I wasn't finding what I needed to help people with thyroid dysfunction and autoimmunity prevent or reverse those conditions. I wasn't finding it. So I had to go out and formulate it. And that's really what happened when I was looking. And of course, Elle isn't quite to the point where she's doing a multivitamin, although I do put probiotics, vitamin D, and fish oils in her bottles of breast milk every day. She's not at the point with a multivitamin. However, I wanted to get a jump start on that for her. And so what I was finding when I was looking for multivitamins, and this is even at, top brands, even in, whole, in grocery stores, I don't want to name any names, and natural grocery stores, or big names, even in places like Target, is I was finding that they had a lot of additives. They didn't have the amount of the quality or the quantity of vitamins that I was looking for. They weren't completely free of artificial sweeteners or of dyes. They had preservatives and fillers. So So, I decided to make my own. And, the benefit of me going through this is that you guys get to benefit from this. So that's awesome. So the multivitamin that I formulated is chock full of 23 essential vitamins and minerals in the most absorbable form, and they include pre-methylated B vitamins. So please note, anytime you get a supplement on my website, if it contains B vitamins, they are already in their pre-methylated form. And there's just too many people out there with MTHFR mutations that there's no reason to not have these in a pre-methylated form. So if you're interested in checking out the multivitamin that I just recently formulated, I have a special offer for you. It's 15% off right now. It's an introductory offer because we're just now launching this multivitamin. So it's 15% off right now through tomorrow night, September 15th. And if you're interested in doing that, you can go to a special link, which is amymd.io /children. Now, I'll let you know that the multivitamin that I carried before this had kind of a chalky flavor and it wasn't that great, so it wasn't a big hit. So when we placed our initial order for this multivitamin, even though we had tested it in the office, people with children took it home to their kids. We had it tested multiple places. It has an incredible berry flavor. We all knew that this was a dramatic improvement, but we didn't know how well it was going to go over. Well, it's going over so well that we're actually getting on back order with the multivitamin right now. So you can still order it and get your 15% off. If you order it now, it's going to be shipped on Monday. So the manufacturer who helped me manufacture the supplement is based out of Florida. So they've been affected by the hurricane, and not to worry, we're going to get the shipment in. However, because that shipment was already scheduled to go out before the hurricane hit. However, we don't know when they're going to reopen. Hopefully it'll be very soon. So after we run out of this next initial dose, if you go to try to buy the multi and you can't, we're going to have a sign-up sheet for you where you can get a rain check. And so we will still honor the 15% off. So know that those of you who've already ordered, your batch is getting ready to go out. Those of you who order now after watching this Facebook Live, if you place your order is going to go out on Monday. Now, if you're late to the game and you purchase it before midnight Central Standard Time on the 15th, but we've already run out, then you can go on a rain check list and we'll be in touch with you as soon as possible. We're hoping early next week we'll get those in, but we just can't say since they were affected by the hurricane. So, and then we're going to pull that sheet down, of course, at midnight Central Standard Time on the 15th. So come on and get your multivitamin if you're interested. It's a mixed berry flavor. It actually is super delicious. It tastes kind of like a mixed berry sweet tart. But what I wanted to tell you really about, because I'm sure this is what you care about, is like, how does this really compare to other brands? And so I took one of the most popular kids brands out there and just kind of did a little bit of a comparison for you. So in theirs, and I don't want to name any names because I don't want to, get bad emails from anybody, but theirs contains folic acid. So folic acid, whenever you see that, is synthetic. Mine contains methylated folate. So that is all natural and is what you need, particularly if you have any mutations of MTHFR. And know that at least 50% of the population has one mutation at MTHFR. So chances are potentially your child has one. If you have one, of course, that increases, and then depending on your partner, whether they do as well. My kids multi includes K2, and all of the B vitamins are active B vitamins. So K2 is really important. We're realizing now, along with vitamin D, for bone health. So there was a lot of study, everybody started taking all these high dosages of vitamin D, but then they weren't taking K in it. And we're seeing in some people potentially calcium deposits in things like your coronary arteries. So all of our vitamin D on my website always has vitamin K2 in it as well. And this vitamin is no exception. So many of the other children's multi, including the leading brand out there, is lacking K2, and it is also lacking activated B vitamins. So our vitamin E, which I already mentioned, that nearly, I think it was 65% of children are low in vitamin E. Ours comes from all natural mixed tocopherols. And the leading brand has synthetically sourced only one type of vitamin E. So there's two main types, and we have both of them, and they're naturally naturally occurring. Our carotenoids, which are coming from, say, carrots and our orange vegetables, we have mixed carotenoids in ours. So, of course, we need mixed carotenoids in order to convert into vitamin A. We need that for our thyroid. We need that for our vision. We need that for brain development. And the leading brand doesn't have any carotenoids in it. We also have trace minerals of chromium, manganese, molybdenum, selenium, and biotin, and of course vitamin C. And the other leading brand is lacking that. And many of our minerals are in a chelated form, so they're more easily absorbable. And many of the minerals are not in that form in the other multivitamin. So again, I'm going to be answering some questions regarding children's health here in just a second. But if you're interested in taking advantage of the children's multivitamin, also just so you know that it's for children from age 2 up to age 16. So there's a varying dose on the back of the on the bottle, depending on the age and weight of the child. So nobody's asked that question yet, but sure, people will be. So age 2 up to age 16, and at 16 and older, you can take the adult multi that we have. So, and again, you can say 15%, amymd.io/children. So again, it's completely free of dyes, artificial sweeteners, fillers, or preservatives when we have the pre-methylated B vitamins. So let me pop back over and see. Let's see. Dorothy's asking if good fats, healthy fats, are good for you. Of course they are. My first food for Elle was avocado. So I'm not sure what the grass-fed and organic is in relation to, but of course, if you're eating animal protein, yes, organic or grass-fed and pasture-raised. Let's see. Let's see. So Dana's happy to hear this. We have Andrea saying hello. So Trish is asking how the children's fish oil tastes. So it is, it has a little bit of lemon flavor in it. And let me just put it this way. I typically I actually use the liquid fish oil frequently for me. It's not necessarily children's fish oil. It's just a liquid fish oil. And I put it in my smoothies. You can have you know that it's there, but it definitely does not detract or take away from the smoothie. So certainly if you want to, it all depends on your child's palate. If you have a super picky palate, you'll probably need to put it, well, let me back up and say, it's the best tasting this is the best tasting liquid fish oil that I've ever tasted. Some of them basically taste like fish with some synthetic sort of flavor on top of them. This does not taste like that. But to completely get rid of the fish taste 100% is, I would say, virtually impossible. So this is literally the least fishy tasting fish oil that I've ever tasted, and I could not tolerate any before. I mean, cod liver oil, I can't do any of that stuff, and I'm willing to do a lot of things. So the one that we have, I have literally just taken it and then taken it with some water, or I'll take it and I take our Neuromag Calm, and it has a what is that? A purple, it's a grape flavor. And so I love that stuff. So if there's ever anything that I, don't like the taste of, I wash it down with that. So I will often just put a little in my mouth and either just do water, or if I happen to be drinking the Neuromag Calm, then I'll do that. Or I'll put it in a smoothie. And I think it's just fine. And I do not like the taste of fish oils at all. Okay, so let's see what else. So I have a couple questions here that my staff's written down for me. Lindy, what are your thoughts on allergy testing in a 100% breastfed baby that's 5 months old? That's very interesting. I was actually thinking about the same thing myself just the other day because Elle ate sweet potato, as I mentioned, and I will put the video up because it is pretty cute of how much she really disliked it. So I'll put that on Instagram. You guys can come follow me. But anyway, she had it twice. The first time she did okay with it, I could tell she didn't like it as much as the avocado, but then the second time she had it, she was literally like kind of gagging and spitting it out. In a way, it's cute. In another way, as a mom, it was a little distressing. But anyway, she woke up with a rash after her nap, and not just a face rash, but her eyes looked a little swollen under there. So we do think that she potentially had an allergy to it. So we stopped right away, and we're not going to, of course, reintroduce that for a little bit. We'll reintroduce it in a little bit. And so right after that, we had her meeting with her pediatrician, and she said, well, certainly, at her 9-month visit, we could do some IgE allergy testing. So I do think that there's allergy testing, which is IgE testing, and then there's food sensitivity testing, which is IgG testing, which is delayed food sensitivity. So I don't think there's really any research in testing for IgG reactions if a child has not ever had food. I mean, of course, many of these antigens can get passed through the placenta, and if they're being breastfed, they can pass through the breast milk. So there certainly is the chance that they are inheriting antigens or antibodies or antigens from you, right? I mean, they're getting those foods from you or getting exposure to those foods from you. So, as far as I know with the IgG, there's not a lot of research to support that. Many of the testing companies that I work with, say really they should be eating a varied diet, and to do that testing, at 1 to 2 years old, really 2 years old, as I think where the research starts. IgE allergy testing, there's, obviously research to support that. So I don't know if I answered your question, but the point is, the antigens could be crossing through your breast milk. They could have crossed through your placenta. Are those things that are going to go away, or are they things that are there to stay? So don't know 100% for you. I am a big tester, and, I'm like a kid in a candy store with testing, but I probably won't test Elle unless I really suspect that there's a problem, and then down the line would do some food sensitivity testing for her. Trisha. So Trisha, my kids eat pretty healthy and take all the supplements you suggest, plus curcumin. Any additional recommendations for asthma? So first, what I would say is eat pretty healthy. That can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. If you asked a vegan, they would say what they ate was pretty healthy. If you asked somebody who was paleo, they'd say they eat things that are pretty healthy. If you asked a raw foodist, they'd say they eat things that are pretty healthy. So that's a generic statement to me. So I don't know what you consider eating pretty healthy. The first things that I think of with asthma are gluten and dairy, and then of course corn and soy and the other inflammatory foods that I talk about. Definitely, if you haven't gotten your kids on, say, the autoimmune protocol from the autoimmune solution, you could definitely try there. So with asthma, I think of just like I do autoimmunity, inflammatory conditions. So what are the foods that they're eating, and then really looking at leaky gut. So I would, if it's not resolving from the diet, then I would look next to the gut. I'd look at things like candida, because I don't know your health history, if there's candida prior to birth, or a lot of times kids with asthma, particularly if it's severe and they're using inhalers or steroids or even antibiotics, because then they get a respiratory infection. Those things, of course, can disrupt their gut flora and fauna, and of course lead to yeast overgrowth. So I would then look at the gut, and I would be following to look at things to heal the gut, like L-glutamine, high dose probiotics, the 4 R's that I talk about. So Lauren, can you recommend a fish oil and a vitamin D supplement for my 8-year-old son? So we do carry a liquid fish. If he swallows pills, then we have a pill-based form of fish oil on my website, or we also have a liquid that I was just kind of talking about. Also have a liquid vitamin D that has K2 in it, and also an oral vitamin D that has K in it. The vitamin D that we have that's oral is 10,000 units, which is pretty high, so we don't recommend that you take it every day. It's usually every other day. Most adults need about 5,000. As an 8-year-old child, again, it's always recommended that you get your child or your levels checked, but I would think that 5 or 10 would be too high for him, and most children around 2,000 units a day, most adults around 5,000 units a day. But again, vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, so you always want to make sure you're getting your levels checked. So Andrea, we haven't seen a nutritionist yet for her celiac. Is that something your clinic would handle? Absolutely. My clinic is well-versed at handling celiac. However, I'm not taking new patients. But good news is Dana, my nutritionist here in the office, does do wellness coaching. So that's something absolutely that she can help you and your child handle. I'm assuming it's a child with celiac, and I'm very sorry to hear that. But good news is you found out now, and that, you know, there's a whole life long ahead of you, or her or him or whoever this is. I think there was you know, something got cut off on the question maybe. And know that, you know, there's following the program in the autoimmune solution is a great place to start, and working with Dana, she's well versed at this. She does this all the time. Okay, so Libby, your 11-year-old is a type 1 diabetic. What supplements do you recommend? So I'm sorry to hear that. I would recommend that your child follow the program in the autoimmune solution, and you can look at supplementation there. So with diabetics, of course, eating lower carb can really help control the amount of insulin that they need. Really going on a paleo or even a ketogenic diet really helps to lower the amount of insulin that they need. And then in terms of supplementation, I mean, I can't speak specifically, but I would definitely also look at or wonder if he has candida, because usually most people don't get diagnosed overnight with diabetes. Typically, you know, the symptoms have been there for a while, and then eventually they get diagnosed, and so the sugars have been high, and so they can have underlying candida. And so usually many of my patients who are diabetic, we do find that they have candida. We treat them for that, and they're also able to reduce either the amount of, I see a lot of type 2 diabetics as well as type 1, so either reduce the insulin or reduce whatever oral medications they're on for diabetes. In fact, many people who come in on oral medications, we can, you know, completely reverse that because, you know, that's usually diet and lifestyle. Of course, being a type 1 diabetic is autoimmune, and depending on how long he's had this, we may not be able to get him 100% off of insulin, but may be able to reduce the amount of insulin, and more importantly, fix the gut and put out the fire so that he's not leaving himself exposed to some other type of autoimmune condition, which is really what you and the other person, who I believe it's probably a child who has celiac, want to do, is to, you know, reverse the condition if you can, at least improve the condition, but more importantly, reduce the fire. So I would look at, you know, things to heal the gut, things to stabilize blood sugar, and then also, of course, you know, things for autoimmunity. But I'd really be looking at the potentiality of him having candida. So Agnes, why do I recommend lean meats? Well, you know, it all depends on the person, but certainly some people can tolerate more fatty meats than other people can. But also in fat is where we store a lot of toxins. So, so you do need to be careful. I mean, even a grass-fed cow, if you're somebody who can tolerate dairy and you're eating a lot of butter, you know, these many toxins get absorbed and stored in fat. So even if it's cattle that's eating grass, you know, we have a lot of toxins coming in our rain and dumping it on the grass, and we have toxins floating out in the air and, you know, laying down in the grass, and then the cow eats the grass. So, you know, unfortunately, and I don't need to get into a big tirade about, you know, all of these hurricanes and earthquakes and fires. I mean, you know, I believe we are, you know, doing detrimental things to our environment, and we're seeing the effects in so many different ways. And one is our food supply, and we're seeing it in our health and all the rise in all of these chronic diseases that we're seeing. And then, I mean, I can go off on a tangent about seeing it then in our environment with all these hurricanes. I mean, you know, a hurricane that's, you know, there have been 2 hurricanes in my lifetime that have destroyed the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And then to have 2 hurricanes back to back, you know, really destroying cities that was just rather unheard of even in my lifetime. But anyway, that's a different topic and I don't want to get off on that. So the reason for the lean animal meats for many people is that there can be a lot of toxins that are stored in the fat. And then for some people, the fat does, you know, affect their cholesterol. I mean, if you are doing a ketogenic diet and you're eating super high fat, that's one thing. But if you're eating a regular diet and then eating super high fat meats, there could be issues potentially with, you know, calories and weight and things like that. So that's it for the lean animal protein. Teresa, supplement for ticks. So I don't have a specific supplement for ticks, but I have seen in my clinic a number of children and even into adults with ticks. And often, I can just tell you the things that I think about, of course, are gluten, dairy. I mean, following a diet like I write about in the autoimmune solution or the thyroid connection would be extremely helpful. Potentially a ketogenic diet. Candida is something I think about. So I would really work through this, you know, 5-part program that I have, which is, you know, looking at the diet, healing the gut, you know, being aware of toxins, infections, and stress and how these things potentially play a role. But I've had many, many people improve and even get rid of their ticks by following that program. So it certainly is a possibility that these ticks could go away. And ticks, I also actually do think about tick and tick-borne illnesses like Lyme, and then of course toxic mold. So there are a lot of different things that I think about. And if you're new to me or my page, definitely looking at the autoimmune solution or the thyroid connection. The autoimmune solution is probably the book that I would refer you to, or I have a program, the autoimmune solution program. So Nicole, okay, so in terms of turmeric for a 5 and 7-year-old and probiotics. So for the 5 and 7-year-old, depends on if they swallow pills. If they're able to swallow pills, you can take the 30 billion probiotic that we have on my website. Turmeric, you know, it really depends on the amount of, or what brand of turmeric that you're using. Turmeric in and of itself typically is not well absorbed. If you're getting something like what I have on my website, it's attached to a fat, so it can penetrate the cell much more. So that's typically 1 to 2 pills a day. We are, as I am talking more about children's health, we're updating my website with more appropriate child dosages. So you can also check my website for that. So Beatrice has a 6-year-old with alopecia universalis. What supplements do I recommend that she take? So Beatrice, this too is sort of about those ticks or about the person with celiac. There's not exactly a specific supplement to take, and this isn't, you know, the talk isn't meant to be about, you know, what supplements to take. It's really to get to the root cause. So I'm very sorry to hear that she has that. I've had a number of children in my clinic. That's very difficult for anybody to deal with, particularly a young child. So I'm very sorry to hear that you and your family and your daughter, or I don't know that it's your daughter, perhaps it's your son, but that you all are dealing with this. I would really encourage you to work through the program in my book, The Autoimmune Solution, or to do the online version of the program that we have, or set up wellness coaching with Dana if you need any specific, you know, hand holding while following one of those programs. So this is really about trying to get to the root and the underlying cause. So I would really be looking at the diet. I'd be looking at healing the gut. And I would be, you know, looking to see if there were any underlying causes of toxins, infections, or stress. I have had 2 children in my clinic that stress was really a big component for them. Childhood, I mean, one was a family stressor, they were going through a divorce, and another was school stressors, actually, just about the you know, amount of demands being placed on them. Weren't the only thing going on, but both played a big role. Would make sure that I'm definitely taking good, high quality multivitamin, probiotics, fish oils for inflammation, and really looking at the gut, looking at for candida going on in the gut, and the 4R program that I talk about, so good high quality probiotics, and then L-glutamine or collagen for him or her. Collagen may be helpful because it helps with hair growth. I'd be looking at iron status for, because we need a certain amount of iron for our hair to grow. Okay. So Amanda is looking for supplements for ADD. So when my approach for children with ADD is, again, what I've been saying for these other conditions as well, really looking at the foods they're eating. I mean, I've seen so many children that are eating gluten and dairy, and it gives, really affects their brain. Some people have genetics to where they are susceptible to the caseomorphins and the gluteomorphins in gluten and dairy, and they are perceived in the body almost like morphine, so they can have very sedative effects for people. Also, it can be very disruptive neurologically and inflammatory neurologically for some children, both gluten and dairy. I had one child who literally had a multi-million-dollar workup through a neurologist. He was literally almost spastic and falling down the stairs, got him off gluten and dairy, and within a matter of days completely had resolved. So foods are very, very powerful. They can heal and they can harm. So definitely be looking at gluten and dairy, as well as any preservatives, colorings, those can do it. And then another big hitter in my clinic that I've seen is some testing called an amino acid testing, where you look at their levels. And I've seen in a lot of people, both adults and children. Had one patient who was an adult, multi-million-dollar workup for ADD, gone to a very famous clinic, had a full workup there, came to me. We did this amino acid testing. His amino acids, his essential amino acids, were in the toilet. So you need these amino acids in order to make our neurotransmitters, and he didn't have the amino acids. So when I see people don't have their amino acids, it's like, why? Are they not eating them? Are they vegetarian and vegan? Are they eating them, but they're not digesting and absorbing them? So you got to look at the gut and stomach acid. Do they have that? Or are they just burning through them? Most people are not burning through them. Most people are not running marathons and Ironman and all that stuff. They are, they're not getting them for whatever reason. They're not eating them, or they are, or they aren't. They're not absorbing them. So anyway, we put him on a customized amino acid blend, and that right there did wonders for him. I mean, he said a light bulb came on, completely changed his life. He'd been all these places, spent all this money, and it was a very simple fix. So that's certainly something that I think about. We do have a general amino acid blend on my website that you could try, or you could get some testing done. Dana could help you out with that. You could do wellness coaching and get a customized amino acid blend potentially formulated. So those are the things that I think about. I'm wondering if my team could pull up, I'm going to try to do it while I'm here, the MTHFR article, and put that in the comment section for people. But what I want to do is be reminded of the company where I did how to test for MTHFR. This is part 2. What to do about it? No, this is part 2. Okay, so I'm going to get you something for this next question real quick here. So, oh yeah, okay. So, we're worried about it. Julie's worried about an allergic reaction to wheat if we don't give your child gluten. There not a lot of people that aren't giving their children gluten. So I don't know, so let's take peanuts, for example. There was no peanut allergies, or few people had peanut allergies. Then there became this enormous peanut allergy. And so then it, avoid giving your kids peanuts till they're a certain age. And now the research is switching back to start to give your kids peanuts earlier to prevent peanut allergy, and that exposing them to nuts earlier is lessening, the research is showing is lessening the number of children with having an allergic reaction to peanuts. So I don't know that there have been enough children, now we're in this, wheat allergy and gluten sensitivity phase, that now we're just starting to have a bunch of people not give their kids wheat and gluten. So I don't know that we've really seen what that effect is going to have. Is that going to increase intolerance or decrease intolerance? I don't really know the answer to that. What I would do, and also wheat allergy and gluten sensitivity are two very different things. So there's a true wheat allergy, which is an IgE reaction, and then there's gluten sensitivity, which is, on the spectrum to celiac disease. And, is that because of Roundup and leaky gut, or is that because, you could genetically be susceptible? So if you want, DNA Life is the test that my friend Helen works for, and they will do some testing for you guys for me. And I did that test for Elle. It was DNA Life, and it was the DNA Health to see if she had the genes for gluten sensitivity. She doesn't, but as of now, we're not going to be giving her gluten. So that's a decision that I'm making, for now. I don't know how that will change in the future, and so I don't know that I can answer your question about future allergies. So let me try to. I'm being super long-winded, so we're almost at the hour mark here. So let me see if I can try. So Libby, what are the best foods to try? Do you recommend to wait till their first tooth or 1 year? I don't. I don't have that luxury because we're not going to have breast milk for a whole year, but I don't think that there's any research to support waiting till they have their first tooth for certain foods. I can only tell you what I'm trying. I haven't really researched this yet. I'm just going on, what I just inherently have in my knowledge bank. We started Elle on avocado, and then we tried sweet potato, and then we tried carrot, and now we're on butternut squash. So there does seem to be some, at least anecdotal evidence, or I don't know if there's real research to support waiting on the fruits, because, if your child does get exposed to fruits early on, then they're going to experience sweet and they might not want the other foods. So we are trying our best to delay the fruits. Now, I would say, and this does make sense to me, that waiting for the meat, even though you could theoretically puree it, waiting on meat till they have teeth kind of makes sense to me, right? Like when did we develop teeth? Probably in order to start chewing meat and things like that. So we likely will be waiting on meat until she has some teeth. But no, we are doing, pureed foods. I'm using a little baby bullet. NutriBullet sent me a baby bullet. So we've been using the baby bullet. I really do like it. The big bullet is kind of hard to get all the food up at the top, but they have this little handheld bullet, which is awesome because it also is kind of the perfect amount. And then I got some glass baby jars. I haven't even told my staff yet, but we'll get a link. So, the baby bullet comes with plastic storage jars, but I got on Amazon some glass jars. I got 2 different ones and I ended up returning one brand. So we'll put which brand, sort of what not to buy. It had this special sealant top, but it had a horrible, horrible plastic smell, which you can only imagine is then going to get trapped, and even the glass smelled. So those went straight back, but got a different one that I really like a lot. So I'll tell my staff what that is and post those. I don't remember what it is right now. So Dana, her son, 7 years old, was recently diagnosed with absence seizures. Any correlation with diet? Yes, there has been. There is a lot of research out about seizures and gluten, and also using a ketogenic diet to help control seizures. So I would definitely look into both of those things. That is the approach that I take in my clinic, as well as, the regular approach that I take for everything. But those are 2 very specific things that I see for that. So Jordan, her 2.5-year-old child, recently started getting that chicken skin or eczema. She's not sure, but he's never had it before. She plans to cut gluten and dairy and add in the supplements, anything else to try. So yeah, I mean, whether it's, so if it is the sort of chicken skin, I do think about gluten with that. And I think about a deficiency in fatty acids. So adding in omega-3s. Eczema, I think gluten, dairy, and omega-3s. I think also about yeast overgrowth. So probiotics and dealing with yeast or candida if that's there. Gordana, what supplements do you recommend for asthma and eczema? So it's not so much about I just answered sort of the eczema above, and I would say the same for asthma. It's not so much about what supplements am I recommending, guys. So this isn't all about just like, you know, I'm not a person who proposes that you just take supplements and it just, you know, covers up underlying causes. Now there are times where nutritional deficiencies are the reason, like that chicken skin can often be an omega-3 fatty acid deficiency. But sometimes it can be gluten. And so you got to get rid of the gluten. So this isn't about what to put in place if you're not really looking at the root cause. So I'm always looking at the root cause of things. Asthma and eczema are inflammatory conditions. So root cause, diet, leaky gut, and certainly with all of those, candida is something that I'm thinking about in terms of leaky gut. And then, of course, you know, if you have a poor diet and leaky gut, what do you need to add in? So we always want to be adding in a good, whether you're a child or an adult, good multivitamin, fish oils, probiotics, and usually vitamin D. And then, of course, depending on special circumstances, other supplements, or if you're somebody dealing with leaky gut, then we have a leaky gut kit. So let me tell you guys also just quickly again, because I've been talking about the kids multivitamin that is on sale because it's new. So we're having an exclusive introductory offer. I still have a few more questions to go here, but for those just tuning in, it's on my website. It's 15% off. Excuse me, yes, it's 15% off. And you can go to amymd.io/children. Also, we have an essential kits for kids. So if all you guys listening, it already has probiotics, fish oils, vitamin D, and multivitamin, probiotic, fish oils, and vitamin D in it. And you can save 15% on that as well. So the link, amymd.io/children, will take you straight to basically the children's page, and you can kind of get whatever you'd like there. But it will definitely give you 15% off between now and September 15th. That's tomorrow at midnight Central Standard Time for our introductory offer of the kids multivitamin that I recently formulated for Elle that I'm passing on to you guys. And then, of course, we do always sell a kids pack that typically is, I think, 10% off, but we're offering it at 15% off if anybody wants to take advantage of that, of getting the probiotic, the fish oils, probiotic, fish oils, multivitamin, and vitamin D all at once, and take advantage of that savings. So again, that's till tomorrow night. And those who are just tuning in, just to let you know that we had such a large response to this, larger than we thought. And by the time we started seeing the response, the hurricane was, on its way, and we got an order in, but that's been a little delayed. So if you order that today, that'll get shipped out Monday rather than tomorrow, because we're waiting to receive that. Once that batch has gone through, which we already are mostly, I think, at least partly, if not mostly, the way through that batch, then we'll go on back order. And that's all just because the place where I've had this formulated is based out of Florida, and they were affected by the hurricane. But we should hopefully have that the following week, next week. We should hopefully have that, but no guarantees just because they're not fully up and running yet. But we will have a sheet that you can sign up. We'll still honor the 15% off for those of you who want to take advantage of this introductory offer. So just a couple more questions, and that is, how do you test for Candida? I'm going to direct you to an article that my staff will post below that will talk all about how to test for Candida. I've written extensively about that. Looks like Erica, how much folate do you recommend if you carry both mutations, MTHFR? So I write about that extensively as well in the MTHFR article. So I'm going to let them post that as well. So Agnes, do I recommend the methylation support for kiddos aside from the multi? First of all, I don't know how old the child is. Can they swallow? And what their MTHFR. But yes, when I see children in my clinic, if they can swallow pills and they have 2 mutations, I do often recommend, depending on their age, they'll usually take 1 pill instead of 2. And I don't, unfortunately, aside from the methylated Bs that are in the kids multi, I don't have a, powdered form or anything like that. So if they don't swallow it and they need it, I have to look elsewhere for that, because it's not really a supplement that you'd want to open up. Those B vitamins don't taste very good opened up. Okay, so Cassandra, I'm sorry to hear your 3-year-old has myasthenia gravis. First of all, I just want to say, wow, I have just been astonished. And this goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning of this talk, which is the exponential rise in allergies, eczema, autism, and autoimmunity. I mean, the number of you all that have written about your children with autoimmunity, I'm in shock. I literally have goosebumps from head to toe right now. I mean, I think I might even get a little teary-eyed. It is really, really upsetting. So this is why I'm here. Conventional medicine failed me. I am so glad that you all are here. I appreciate each and every one of you for showing up for yourself, for showing up for your children, to help them and to know that there is another way, that they do not have to go through the conventional approach to these autoimmune diseases. So I really just want to give each one of you all applause. I don't know if you can see, I'm literally getting teary-eyed here at the number of people. Maybe obviously it's because this Facebook Live is kid-centric, that all of you all are asking questions about your children. But I don't get this number of people writing in about their children. And it's just astonishing to me, the number of people who are writing in with children with autoimmunity. So I'm very sorry that your child's having to deal with this, that you all are having to deal with this as a family. Please know that, my book, The Autoimmune Solution, is an incredible resource. It can be used with children. I have an online program, the Autoimmune Solution Program, if you're somebody who prefers, or if your child, interactive and wants to see things rather than reading a book. Or of course, you reading the book and then implementing the plan and going through that with them. And then Dana's here with wellness coaching to help you guys as well. But this is really about finding the root cause. So supplements are definitely there to help quickly get the body back in balance, to overcome, things like MTHFR mutations, to quickly help heal the body and support the body's natural ability to heal, and really finding the underlying root cause. So that's looking at the diet, looking at the gut, toxins, infections, and stress, and then using supplements to help to help just guide that natural body, your body's ability to heal. So for myasthenia gravis, that is considered an autoimmune disease. In terms of testing, I don't know if you're looking for testing to support myasthenia gravis or just in general, but, I talk about this in my book, The Autoimmune Solution. It's difficult to say because everybody's an individual, but in general, most people, when they come to see me in my clinic, which I'm not taking any new patients, I've sent out an email. I don't know if many of you all know, I'm really trying to reach the masses like I am right now. And of course, be home with my own daughter and be a mother while trying to continue to write books, run a business, and, just reach more people in this kind of way to help get the word out. But Dana, my wellness coach and nutritionist here in the clinic, is seeing wellness coaching patients. But a typical patient coming in with autoimmunity is typically going to get, some very general blood work. I talk about this in the Autoimmune Solution book. Very comprehensive stool analysis. Depending on the severity, may even get something called an ion panel looking at nutritional deficiencies. And then again, it really depends on what I'm hearing. Myasthenia gravis, I might think about Lyme. I might think about toxic mold. So these would be a little bit, if you're not getting the results you want on that first tier of stuff, and we're digging deeper. So again, everybody, I just want you to know, really appreciate you showing up today, being here for yourself, being here for your children. We have an introductory offer going on the children's multivitamin and also the children's wellness pack. It's an introductory offer for the children's multivitamin, amymd.io/children, 15% off between now and tomorrow night, September 15th, Central Standard Time, midnight, and 15% off the wellness pack, which is kids multi, fish oils, probiotics, and vitamin D. And also just wanted to say, what else did I want to say? Just for all of you guys out there and for your children, please know that there's hope. Really appreciate you for being here. You know, I had a lot of information in the beginning talking about the vitamin deficiencies that are going on in our children, talking about why we're having such a problem with autoimmunity, allergies, eczema, that type of thing, what to do about it. So if you're joining late, please go back and listen to the beginning. Please share this information, like and share it with others as well, who maybe are planning to get pregnant, currently pregnant, recently delivered, or we had a couple grandmas on here. So, you know, I am going to be doing more about lifelong health for children. Those of you who are adults dealing with autoimmune and chronic conditions, not to worry, I'm still here for all of that too. But certainly like and share this with anybody that you think that this would be helpful. Again, really appreciate everybody for showing up today. Thank you so much. I hope you all have an awesome, awesome Thursday, and I will see you guys again very soon. Take care.